What if the meal on your plate wasn't made fresh this morning, but instead was yesterday's leftovers, disguised with a sprinkle of herbs and a reheated smile? What if, without knowing it, you paid full price for recycled scraps, and no one in the building dared to stop it? That's the unsettling question Owen Briggs found himself asking as he stood just outside the glass doors of a roadside buffet in Ohio. His reflection in the window was unrecognizable. Faded trucker hat, salt and pepper beard glued on with surgical precision, a limp added to sell the disguise. This wasn't the Owen his boardroom knew. This was customer number 17, in store number 17, just another face in a lunch line he secretly owned. 8 years earlier, Owen had rescued the franchise from bankruptcy. 5 stores back then, now 20, running at a profit. But something had shifted. Lately, customer complaints had started trickling in. They weren't just about cold food or dirty forks, they were about deeper problems. Rudeness, neglect, the kind of indifference that poisons a brand from the inside out. Official reports came back clean. The district managers said things were fine. But trust, Owen had learned, is a currency that devalues quickly in silence. So he took matters into his own hands. No cameras, no entourage. Just him and a burner phone. He stepped inside. The air hit him first, lukewarm, heavy with fryer grease. He grabbed a plastic tray and slid it onto the rail, moving slowly along the buffet line. The sneeze guards were streaked with fingerprints. The fried chicken looked like it had been microwaved in despair. The macaroni had hardened at the edges, curled slightly where the heat lamp had cooked it beyond recognition. He leaned in to inspect the lasagna when a gentle voice interrupted. "Go ahead, sir." A girl stood behind him in a faded uniform. Her name tag read Naomi. Her expression was tired but polite. "Been here long?" he asked. She nodded toward the kitchen. 3 years. Just trying to get through the lunch rush." He gave a faint smile and moved on, but his eyes missed nothing. 2 trays of mashed potatoes, supposedly the same, but one was steaming, the other barely warm. He selected small portions of several items and took a seat in the corner. From there, he had a clear view of the swinging kitchen doors. Every few minutes, they'd flap open to reveal a man, mid-40s, stocky, bald, clipboard in hand, barking orders like a drill sergeant on caffeine. "Refill station 3. Wipe the salad bar. Naomi, move faster with those tongues." The man never said thank you. Not once. Owen stabbed at a piece of fish. It tasted off, like it had been reheated twice and seasoned with indifference. Naomi approached to refill his water. "Everything okay, sir?" He leaned in slightly. "Be honest. Is this food fresh?" She froze. Her eyes darted toward the kitchen, then back to his face. "I can't say," she whispered. "I'm sorry." But Owen had already read the answer in her silence. Moments later, the man with the clipboard shoved an untouched tray of chicken back into the kitchen. Owen, curious, stood and walked toward the restrooms, detouring past the open kitchen door. That's when he heard it. Sharp, definitive, unfiltered. "Wrap up what's left of that meatloaf. We'll serve it again at dinner." He stopped. Another voice, young, uncertain, pushed back. "But it's not safe. It's all ready. I said wrap it. We're not wasting food just because it sat out a few hours." Owen stepped closer. Inside, the manager hovered over a dried-out tray of meatloaf, jabbing a finger at a teenage worker who looked pale. "Mr. Calhoun, this doesn't feel right." The older man didn't even blink. "I don't care what it feels like. You want hours or not?" Owen turned back toward the dining area, his stomach clenched, appetite gone. He sat at his table again, pushed the food away, and just watched. 10 minutes passed. He stood, walked to the cashier, and calmly asked to speak to the manager. He wasn't angry, not yet. But something inside him had shifted, something permanent. Tomorrow, he'd be back. Not as a customer, as the man who owned the place. The next morning, before the sun had fully risen over the Ohio horizon, Owen Briggs stood once again at the back entrance of the same buffet restaurant. Gone were the jeans and flannel shirt. This time, he wore the standard-issue kitchen assistant uniform, black slacks, steel-toe shoes, and a polo shirt with the company logo stitched cleanly over the heart. In one hand, he carried a cheap duffel bag filled with gloves, a notebook, and a change of clothes. In the trunk of his rental car sat his real identity. ID badge, dress shirt, leather belt, all locked away until further notice. Today, he wasn't the owner. He was Eric, the new hire. The assistant manager opened the door and gave Owen a quick once-over. Thin, with darting eyes and a sniffle that came more from stress than illness, Derek offered no handshake. "You're the new kitchen support, right?" His tone was flat. "Yeah, Owen, Eric," he corrected. "Name's Derek," the man said, already turning. "We're short today. Prep's swamped. You ever use a slicer?" "Plenty of times," Owen replied. "Good. Go find Marcus. He'll put you to work." The kitchen buzzed with activity and tension. Fluorescent lights flickered over metal counters. Chopped lettuce piled into bins. A teenage girl stood peeling potatoes at the back, headphones on, one ankle wrapped in athletic tape. Every few steps, she winced. Nobody said anything. Marcus worked nearby, lean, early 30s, steady hands moving at a brisk pace. He barely looked up. "You the new guy?" "Yep. Show me what needs doing." Marcus nodded toward a stack of trays. "Separate the skin from the thighs, toss them in the marinade. Gloves under the sink." Owen got to work. For the first hour, barely a word passed between them. But Owen watched closely. The girl limped worse with every step. Marcus kept glancing her way, his mouth tightening each time. Finally, Owen leaned toward him and asked, "Lo, is she okay?" Marcus didn't stop chopping. "Twisted her ankle last week, asked for a day off. Calhoun said no. If she can stand, she can work." Owen's jaw flexed. He said nothing, just nodded. By 10:30, prep was running on fumes. Derek burst in with a clipboard, muttering numbers like spells under his breath. Yesterday's foot traffic was 18% under projection. We're short again today, and the lunch crowd's picking up. He didn't acknowledge Owen as he moved to the walk-in cooler, pulling out a tray of cooked sausage patties. "You sure those are from today?" Owen asked casually. Derek blinked. "They're fine. Didn't sell yesterday. We reheat and send them out. You new or auditing me?" His voice held an edge. Before Owen could answer, the back door slammed open. Calhoun marched in, same sour face, same clipboard. "Let's move, people. Doors open in 20. I want that salad bar full and those steam trays topped off. If I see one tray of slop from yesterday sitting out, someone's losing hours." Marcus looked up. "We're out of fresh greens. Delivery's late." Calhoun didn't pause. "Then use what's in the cooler. Chop around the brown spots. Fluff it up. Ice it if you have to." "It's not just brown," Marcus said. "It's wilted." "Then make it look decent. You want a paycheck or not?" Owen moved away, pretending to grab gloves near the sink but listening intently. The girl with the ankle injury had stopped peeling. She held her leg stiffly, pain etched across her face. Marcus noticed and grabbed a chair. "Sit down. You shouldn't be on that foot." Calhoun spun. "What is this? Break time already?" Marcus didn't flinch. "She's hurt. I told you that last week. And I told you if she can limp, she can work. She sits, she's off the clock." Owen's voice cut through the air, low and firm, before he could stop himself. "That's not policy." Calhoun turned slow and cold. "You knew?" Owen nodded. "Then keep your head down and your mouth shut." Owen didn't respond. He just met Calhoun's stare long enough to let him know he wasn't afraid, then turned back to work. But he felt it now. The rot wasn't just bad leadership. It was a disease. By lunch, the buffet was fully stocked, but Owen recognized the signs. The meatloaf had a fresh top layer, but beneath, the same cracked edges from yesterday. The gravy had been stirred to hide separation. Macaroni had been rehydrated, fluffed, but the dryness remained. Calhoun stalked the stations like a hawk, shouting if a tongue was left crooked or a spoon dipped below the tray edge. He never washed his hands, even after touching raw chicken. At one point, Naomi tried to gently remind him, "Hey, just a heads up, you might want to." "I've been doing this longer than you've been breathing?" He snapped, waving her off. During a lull, Owen pulled Naomi aside. "Do you ever report any of this?" he asked. Her eyes darted toward the hallway. "People who report don't stay long." "What about the reused food?" She looked pained. "I try to keep my section clean. I don't control the kitchen." "Anyone gotten sick?" "There was a family a few weeks ago. Complained. Never came back. But no official report." "And Calhoun?" "Been here 4 years. People come and go. He stays. I think he knows someone higher up." Owen nodded, heart sinking. This wasn't neglect. It was sanctioned decay. Later, he found Reggie, the dishwasher, elbow deep in soapless water, his hands cracked and red. "Where's your gear?" Owen asked. Reggie sighed. "They keep saying they'll order more." In the break room, Owen saw the employee's schedule, a mess of pen scratches and crossed-out names. Turnover was rampant. Around 3, a teenage boy asked Calhoun for his 15-minute break. "You'll get it when we slow down," Calhoun barked. I've been here since 6, the boy protested. Then you should have eaten before. The kid walked away, silent. Owen stepped outside, phone in hand, and called his assistant from the burner number. I need employee files from this location, last 2 years. Complaints. Anything with Calhoun's name on it. Inside, Derek was berating Marcus about an inventory form. You emailed it? I don't care if you sent it to the moon. If it's not on paper, it doesn't count. Owen leaned on the prep counter, wiping his hands slowly. Lot of yelling for one sheet. Derek glanced at him, annoyed. You don't get how things run here. Owen straightened. Maybe I'm starting to. Before the end of the day, Owen approached Naomi one last time. She was wiping down the salad station, face drawn, movements slow. Why do you stay? He asked. She glanced around at the younger workers nearby. I need the paycheck, but I don't want to leave the kids here alone. Some of them have no one. Owen paused. You've got someone now. She looked at him, confused, but he didn't explain. As he exited through the back, he passed the dumpster. The same teenage cook from earlier stood there, holding a black garbage bag. Wasn't supposed to throw this out, the kid muttered. But it stinks. You did the right thing, Owen said. Calhoun's gonna flip. Let me worry about Calhoun. Owen climbed into his car, peeled off the polo shirt, and sat in silence. This place, it wasn't broken by accident. It had been allowed to rot, protected by silence, fueled by fear. But tomorrow, Owen wouldn't be hiding. The silence was ending. The next day, the air in the Ohio buffet kitchen buzzed with the usual frantic energy of a shift about to peak. Sweat already stained collars, trays clattered in the prep line, and Derek stood near the counter, tapping numbers into his phone with one hand while clutching his ever-present clipboard in the other. But this day would not run like the others. This day would not slide by in the same blur of stress, shortcuts, and fear. At exactly 11:22 a.m., the back door opened, not for a delivery, not for an underpaid teenager sneaking a break, but for Owen Briggs. No costume, no limp, no flannel or fake beard. Just pressed slacks, polished shoes, and a company ID badge clipped neatly to his belt. He walked in silently, holding the door for Reggie, the elderly dishwasher, whose cracked hands clutched a bag of gloves that finally, mercifully, had arrived. Reggie looked up and blinked. Forgot my gloves again, he mumbled. Owen just nodded. Inside, Marcus was slicing brisket, headphones around his neck, face focused. The girl with the injured ankle wasn't in sight. Probably, finally, given the rest she deserved. Owen stepped through the kitchen with calm precision. No one recognized him. Not yet. He passed Naomi in the dining area as she helped a nervous new hire fill the pudding trays. Her eyes met his, and widened. She froze for half a second, tray in hand, then gave a small, confused nod. Owen gave one in return, then kept walking. Near the buffet line, Calhoun stood like a sentinel, arms crossed, surveying the food like a general before battle. Derek, hunched over by the register, was tapping numbers and chewing a pen cap. Neither of them noticed the storm about to break. Owen stopped beside a young woman wiping down the sneeze guard. Excuse me, he said gently. Would you mind gathering everyone into the break room? I need to speak to the whole team. She hesitated, caught off guard by his steady tone and unfamiliar presence. But something in his voice made her nod. Right away. Calhoun turned as she walked away. Where's she going? He demanded. Owen faced him directly. My name is Owen Briggs, he said, clearly and without theatrics. I own this company. The words dropped like lead. Calhoun's face didn't change immediately, but the muscles in his jaw tightened. You? What? I'm not here for lunch today. I'm not here to train. I'm here because I've seen enough. And this, Owen motioned around the room, ends today. Calhoun stammered. If this is about yesterday, I wasn't aware of any. Owen raised a hand. Don't, he said, voice still calm. You ordered expired meatloaf to be reheated and served again. You allowed greens too spoiled for compost to be chopped and iced. You denied breaks. You ignored injuries. You barked at people trying to work through pain. You've created a workplace where fear walks louder than management. The break room filled slowly. Staff filed in quietly. Marcus, Naomi, Reggie, the teenage cook, the girl with the limp, and others whose names Owen didn't yet know, but whose fatigue he recognized. They leaned against the walls, perched on overturned crates, stood shoulder to shoulder. The air was heavy. Calhoun stood in the center like a man about to be tried. Derek lingered near the edge, arms crossed tightly, as if folding in on himself might make him invisible. Owen didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Over the last 7 weeks, I visited 17 of our 20 locations. I did it quietly. No announcements, no heads up, because I didn't want a show. I wanted the truth. He let that hang. What I saw here in this store is not just disappointing, it's dangerous. Calhoun opened his mouth, but Owen didn't pause. You're dismissed. Effective immediately. You are not to interact with staff, customers, or vendors. You will receive no severance. Security will escort you off the property. You can't just... I can, Owen said, and I just did. From the hallway, a man in plain clothes stepped in, one of 2 security contractors Owen had arranged that morning. He said nothing, just gestured calmly toward the exit. Calhoun looked around the room for support, found none, not a glance, not a whisper, not a lifeline. He walked out, silent. Owen turned to Derek. You've signed off on reused food. You've overseen staff being pushed to work through injuries. You've shouted over safety. You're suspended pending investigation. If the audit confirms what I expect, your employment will be terminated. Derek dropped his clipboard with a clatter and followed the second contractor out of the room. Owen turned back to the staff. This is not the company I built, but it's the one I'm here to fix. He looked around slowly. No one else is being fired today, but things change starting now. Eyes began to lift. Naomi stood straighter. Marcus uncrossed his arms. The silence began to melt. Owen stepped aside and motioned toward the hallway. Let's move out front. We've got a full team coming in to support the lunch rush. You're not doing this short-staffed ever again. The staff hesitated at first, but then, slowly, they moved. In the dining area, 3 temporary employees, flown in from a neighboring state, were already at work. Clean uniforms, kind greetings, not a single barked order. Near the salad bar, Owen pulled Naomi aside. I want you to step into a lead role here. Temporary for 30 days. If things go well, we make it permanent. You'll get a raise, formal training, and hiring authority. She blinked. I'm not sure I'm ready. You are. You've been ready. You just haven't had the authority. She nodded, slowly, eyes wide. Owen turned to Marcus next. Same offer, lead kitchen. You won't be alone. I'm sending 2 regional trainers here by tomorrow. Marcus nodded once, not showy, just steady. We need gear, gloves, tools. Half of it's broken or missing. It's already ordered. You'll have it by morning. And from now on, if something's not safe, it doesn't go out. Period. By 2 p.m., the atmosphere in the restaurant had shifted. The buffet line had been cleared and reset. Every tray replaced. Not a single bite from the morning remained. Naomi floated between stations, checking on staff and customers. Marcus managed the kitchen like a composer, measured, deliberate. The air smelled different, cleaner, honest. Near the front, a woman in a green blouse approached Owen. Excuse me, she said. Are you the manager? No, Owen replied with a soft smile. I just work here. She smiled back. Well, whoever's in charge today, tell them it's the best this place has looked in a long time. He nodded. I'll pass it on. Later, as the lunch rush wound down, Owen stood beside Marcus near the prep station. You'll need 2 more hires, Owen said. We'll find the right ones, Marcus replied, his voice steady. You will, Owen nodded. And I'll be back. Not next week, not next month, but I will be back. No warning. Marcus gave a rare slight grin. We'll be ready. Owen stepped outside into the late afternoon sun. He didn't feel triumphant, not yet, but he felt something clearer than pride. He felt purpose. The work wasn't finished, not by a long shot, but it had finally started. 3 weeks had passed. The leaves outside the Ohio buffet rustled in the early afternoon breeze, and the clouds above carried the scent of rain. The dining room was halfway full. The staff moved with quiet purpose, focused but no longer frantic. No shouting, no sighs of defeat, just rhythm. And then the front door opened. Owen Briggs stepped inside, not through the kitchen entrance, not disguised or flanked by security. Just a man with an umbrella dripping rainwater and a sharp eye for change. He didn't announce himself. He didn't need to. He stood in the foyer and took it all in. The air smelled fresher, the buffet trays were clean and gleaming, the sneeze guards spotless. No dry edges, no suspicious steam trays reheated twice over. Behind the carving station, a young man in a crisp uniform sliced fresh turkey breast. When his eyes met Owen's, he offered a small, respectful nod, not out of fear, but recognition. Something had shifted. Owen stepped aside and waited as the lunch rush began to thin. He wasn't here to test. He was here to see if the changes had taken root. In the break room, Marcus stood over the prep logs, sleeves rolled up, one thumb smudged with blue ink. He didn't look up when Owen entered, just said, "We're holding steady." Owen smiled faintly and took off his jacket. "Short any positions?" "Still need a line cook and a dishwasher, but we're rotating better now. No one's clocking over hours." "How's the team holding up?" Marcus leaned back. "They're not watching the clock anymore. They're watching the food, the details." Owen nodded, quietly impressed. "Any problems?" Marcus hesitated. "One, supplier tried to sub in lower quality produce 2 days in a row. Naomi caught it, sent it back." Owen raised an eyebrow. "She's sharp." "Doesn't miss much." Just then, Naomi stepped in, clipboard under one arm, hair pulled into a damp bun from the drizzle outside. She set down the board and gave Owen a firm but respectful nod. "Customer reviews are up 31% across all platforms. We've had at least 3 families mention the changes directly." "You tracking that?" "Manually. Started a log. It's the only way to see what's sticking." Owen flipped through it. Receipts stapled to handwritten notes, customer feedback scrawled in pen. No gimmicks, just data. "Anyone pushing back on the changes?" Owen asked. Marcus spoke first. "Had a former server come back last week. She left 6 months ago. Heard the place was different. We rehired her. She's doing well." Owen turned to Naomi. "You comfortable with your team?" "It's improving, but we're still carrying a couple people who haven't bought in." "Who?" Naomi hesitated. "I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus. I'm not asking for gossip. I'm asking who's hurting the team." She exhaled. "Chris from prep. Still chronically late. Doesn't check food temps unless told. Doesn't clean after himself. I've warned him twice. 3rd time's termination. No exceptions." Owen sat down on the edge of a bench. "This is going to be the reality from now on. We're not running a fear-based shop, but we are holding people accountable. Either they meet the standard or they move on." He stood. "Let's walk the floor." They started in the kitchen. The girl who had once limped her way through prep was back, ankle fully healed. She moved confidently between tasks, gloves on, hairnet secured, posture proud. She caught Owen's eye, gave a small wave. He returned it silently, but with meaning. At the dish station, Reggie was humming softly, moving trays of cups into the sanitizer. His hands looked smooth again. New gloves hung neatly by the sink, and fresh rubber mats lined the floor beneath his station. Owen stopped. "How's the supply?" Reggie looked back. "Everything I asked for came in, even the non-slip mats. Haven't had to ask twice since." "Good." They stepped out into the dining area. A woman in her 60s waved Naomi over from a booth near the window. Naomi leaned in, listened, smiled warmly, then returned to Owen and Marcus. "She said her granddaughter has a peanut allergy. One of the servers flagged it before she even ordered." Owen turned. "You run that training?" Marcus nodded. "I made it standard last week. Allergen flags before service. New hires get it day 1. I wrote the module myself." Owen's eyes narrowed slightly in admiration. "Send it to my office. I want it implemented system-wide." Back in the kitchen, a small commotion broke out near the walk-in cooler. Owen stepped toward the noise just as Naomi intercepted a confrontation between Chris, the same prep worker she'd mentioned, and a younger man in a server's apron. Chris stood arms crossed, scowling. "I'm not taking orders from some kid who just started." The younger server flushed but stood his ground. "I wasn't giving orders. I asked you to label the chicken. Like we're supposed to." "I've been here longer than you've been shaving," Chris snapped. Naomi stepped between them. "Chris, we've talked about this." Chris turned, voice dripping with contempt. "You're only in charge because the boss wanted a clean face up front." Then, from behind him, Owen's voice rang out, calm but cutting. "That's enough." Chris turned, startled. Silence dropped over the room. "You're being let go," Owen said, not raising his voice. "You've ignored protocol, disrespected leadership, and created an unsafe environment for others. You're off the clock now. Naomi has your file. You'll be paid for hours worked, nothing more." Chris's eyes darted, searching for someone to speak up for him. No one did. Marcus stepped beside him, arms folded. "Come get your stuff. I'll walk you out." Chris looked at Naomi one last time, then turned and left. Naomi let out a long breath. "I didn't expect it to happen that fast." "You gave him chances?" Owen replied. "He made his choice." The young server, Leon, stood quietly by the cooler, hands still at his sides. Owen turned to him. You handled that professionally. What's your name? Leon. 2 weeks in. Owen nodded. Keep doing what you're doing. That's how standards are built. 20 minutes later, they debriefed in the small office. Naomi's documentation on Chris was flawless, clear, consistent, thorough. You're ready to go permanent, Owen said. Naomi blinked. You're sure? No hesitation. You've handled real conflict, protected your staff, and improved performance across every metric. She sat slowly, overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. Say yes, then keep doing what you've been doing. She looked at Marcus, who smiled slightly. Told you this wasn't temporary. Owen turned to him. You're staying in the lead kitchen role. Marcus nodded. I want to build something here. It's been a long time since I felt like that. You've got my backing. If you need a third trainer or more prep staff, you say so. They stood together for a long moment. Owen's eyes fell to the logbook on Naomi's desk. Clean, methodical, real. We're not just fixing a location, he said quietly. We're raising a new standard. Naomi met his gaze. Then let's raise it. Owen left just before the dinner shift. No speech, no announcement, just a few quiet thank yous, a handshake or two, and a final walk through the kitchen. Outside, the storm had passed. The lot was still wet, but the clouds had begun to break. As he reached his car, he paused, watching a young family enter the restaurant. 2 parents, 3 children. The smallest boy held the door open for his sister. Owen slid into the driver's seat. This time, he wasn't driving away from a problem. He was driving forward, toward the company he'd always believed was possible. One decision, one store, one person at a time. As Owen stepped out into the fading sunlight, the air felt different, calmer, somehow cleaner. The storm had passed, but the clouds hadn't fully cleared. The parking lot glistened beneath his shoes as he paused just outside his car. He didn't feel triumphant. He didn't feel like a man who'd won anything. He felt something deeper, clarity. Over the past few weeks, Owen had seen what most CEOs never do, not reports or spreadsheets or third-hand updates wrapped in corporate spin. He'd seen real people, under real pressure, forced to make hard choices in a broken system that rewarded silence and punished integrity. And despite that, some had still chosen to stand tall. He had stared into the eyes of a manager who abused authority, who pushed unsafe food out to families with a smile. He had watched fear ripple through a team like a silent virus, so normalized they barely questioned it. But he had also seen resilience. Naomi, who bore twice the burden of others just to protect the kids who had no one. Marcus, who spoke truth to power even when it could have cost him everything. Leon, brand new, but unshaken in the face of disrespect. None of them were looking to be heroes, but they became ones anyway. Inside the restaurant now, there was warmth, not just from the food, but from the atmosphere. Laughter echoed softly from the dining area. Employees moved with purpose, not panic. Gloves were worn. Allergies were flagged. Dishes were clean. Customers noticed, and they were coming back. This buffet used to be a dumping ground for leftovers, indifference, and corner cutting. Today, it was something else entirely. A symbol, a story in motion. Proof that standards could rise when people were given the power and the trust to raise them. And yet, Owen knew this was just one store, one piece of a larger truth. There were still 3 more locations left to visit in his unannounced journey across the chain. Still more managers to meet, more cultures to unearth. And if what he had uncovered here was any indication, what lay ahead might be even darker. This store had given him a roadmap, a rallying cry, but it had also issued a warning. Because if rot could fester in one kitchen while reports said all was well, what else had been hiding in the cracks? Owen opened his car door and sat for a long moment, staring at the building through the windshield. The glow from the restaurant's windows cast long shadows across the pavement. And in the midst of them, he saw something worth fighting for. Not just profit, not just performance, but dignity, humanity, justice. Not everyone would understand why a CEO would get his hands dirty in a kitchen. But Owen knew. Because true leadership doesn't start from the top of an org chart. It starts from the ground, where the gloves are torn, the feet are sore, and the voices are rarely heard. One store was saved, one culture reclaimed. Now the road ahead stretched out, quiet, uncertain, but necessary. And what he would find next at store number 18 might change everything. To be continued? Stay tuned.